Bibbidi-bobbidi, bibbidi-bobbidi, bibbidi-bobbidi.
Oh, it's a beautiful dress. Did you ever see such a beautiful dress?
There's something almost magical about a makeover scene, a kind of modern alchemy. A girl walks into a montage, awkward, overlooked, unrefined, and emerges moments later to gasp and applauses. Suddenly she matters. Think Clueless, where Ty is polished into popularity, The Princess Diaries, where Mia is sanded down into royalty, Grease, where Sandy sheds her innocence for a leather-clad smirk, or the classic Blueprint, Cinderella, whose entire future shifts with a dress and a pair of glass slippers. It's a formula we know by heart, and yet we never get tired of it. But why? Because the makeover promises something deeper than just beauty. It promises belonging. It tells us that if we can change just the right things, our hair, our posture, our clothes, we can finally be seen, heard, and desired. That our value is just one transformation away. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Makeovers don't teach us how to become ourselves. They teach us how to disappear into acceptability. What if the girl didn't want to be fixed? What if she was fine before? And what does it say about us that we keep romanticizing the idea that our worth must be earned through alteration? In this video, we're unpacking the makeover myth, a story we've been told in different costumes for generations. We'll look at why the transformation trope is so emotionally addictive, how it reflects a long history of placing women's values in visibility, and how beauty rituals, both ancient and algorithmic, promise power at a price. And most importantly, we'll explore what it means to take the narrative back. Because maybe the real makeover isn't about changing who you are. Maybe it's about finally being seen for who you've always been.
Now, a word from our sponsor.
You know that magical moment when something iconic comes back even more chic? Like when Marie Antoinette met pastel punk in Sofia Coppola's remake, or when Barbie redefined herself in Greta Gerwig's pink powdered reboot. Well, Raycon's Everyday Earbuds Classic just got that kind of upgrade, and this video is sponsored by Raycon. They're back and more stylish than ever. Raycon's fan-favorite Everyday Earbuds Classic now come with active noise cancellation. It's like your favorite vintage silhouette with hidden pockets. They last all day, 8 hours on a single charge, 24 total with the case. I wear mine while working at home or going for walks or editing my next video essay. And I use the awareness mode, which is perfect for when I'm in a cafe and still want to hear the world softly around me. They're water resistant, come in dreamy colors like the blush violet, and switch between devices effortlessly with multi-point connectivity. I love listening to podcasts and vintage music when I'm going for walks or even just walking to work. I also love wearing them around the house when I'm doing laundry or collecting photos on my computer for my next video. And Raycons fit so well, they're barely noticeable. The gel tips, chef's kiss. And when I use them in super noisy environments or traveling, you feel like you're in your own quiet, perfect world. So it's nice to block out all that extra noise. So if you're into affordable, stylish earbuds that go from errands to editorial, go to buyraycon.com and get 20% off the re-released Everyday Classic earbuds. And don't forget to click the link in my description and pin comment below to get your 20% off. And this video was sponsored by Raycon. And thank you for supporting my channel by supporting Raycon, and you'll love how colorful these earbuds are and how perfect they are for your everyday life. Alright, let's jump back into the main video. Chapter 1, the makeover as a modern fairy tale. Let's begin where most of us first learned that a transformation could be the key to a better life. Fairy tales. These stories often read to us before we could fully form memories whispered one consistent message. The girl who starts the story is not enough, but by the end, with the right help, the right dress, and the right magic, she's worthy. Take Cinderella, perhaps the most iconic makeover story of all time. She begins in ashes, invisible and unloved, and with the help of a fairy godmother, she emerges in a ball gown that grants her access to power, visibility, and romance. The transformation is not internal, it is entirely aesthetic. The glass slipper doesn't fit her because she's good. It fits her because she's now beautiful. She isn't chosen for her resilience or kindness. Those were present all along. But only once she's revealed in the dress and the curls do people finally pay attention. In Sleeping Beauty, beauty is not just in the name, it's the entire point. She slumbers untouched, suspended in time, preserved like an ideal. Her awakening is a restoration of beauty, not personality. She doesn't speak or act, she's simply looked at, and that is enough. In Beauty and the Beast, Belle is rewarded for seeing past ugliness, but the Beast still becomes handsome in the end. The moral may seem to be true love sees within, but we still get the reward of a tidy physical transformation. Even kindness must be matched with handsomeness before the story concludes. These aren't just bedtime stories, they are templates, subtle scripts tucked into the corners of girlhood, telling us that femininity is a journey of improvement, that identity is something to be polished, softened, and presented. The makeover becomes not just an act of styling, but a ritual of validation, and most importantly, it must be witnessed. The transformation only counts when someone else, a prince, a friend group, an audience sees it. Visibility becomes proof of worth. And while we grow up and maybe put the picture books away, the structure doesn't vanish, it just modernizes. Enter the 90-second makeover montage, the grown-up version of the glass slipper. It's cinematic shorthand for rebirth, often framed by pop music and slow-motion reveals. And we love it because it's familiar. In Clueless, Cher and Dion take on Ty as a project. They don't change her personality, just her aesthetics, but suddenly the boys start looking. She becomes viable, desirable, and included. In The Princess Diaries, Mia's transformation is even more drastic. She doesn't just get a blowout and contact lenses. Her entire posture, her walk, her wardrobe are overvalued. The before and after is so stark that even her classmates barely recognize her. And that's the point. The message is clear. Messy is invisible, controlled is worthy. And of course, there's Grease, where Sandy's transformation is played for shock value. She appears in a black catsuit, a cigarette dangling from her lip. Her good girl innocence literally smoked out. It's seduction as strategy, power via aesthetics. She doesn't change who she is, she just learns how to perform in a way the world rewards. But here's the twist that's easy to miss. In every case, the girl doesn't fundamentally change. Her values, her talent, her thoughts remain untouched. What transforms is how the world sees her. The makeover isn't for her. It's for the world to finally say, now we'll look. Now you're acceptable. Now we care. It's performative femininity in its purest form. Shape-shifting not to become someone else, but to finally be seen. And in a culture where being visible often means being valued, the temptation of the makeover becomes hard to resist. So we keep watching these scenes, we recreate them in front of bathroom mirrors, we scroll through TikTok glow-up montages and imagine our own big reveal. But underneath all of this is a haunting question. What if we never needed the transformation at all? What if our only flaw was being unnoticed? Do you have a favorite makeover scene growing up? Looking back, did it change how you viewed yourself or how you thought the world would view you? I mean, obviously, I loved Cinderella growing up. Beauty and the Beast obviously was one of my favorite fairy tale movies as a kid. I mean, I loved watching Clueless in the 90s, so I'm definitely a sucker for all these makeover montage scenes as well. Chapter 2, Feminine Value and the Cult of Transformation. To truly understand the grip of the makeover myth, we have to peel back the layers of history and examine a reoccurring pattern. The construction of feminine value is something that has always been visual, performative, and conditional. Across centuries and civilizations, a woman's worth has rarely been measured by her thoughts or her achievements, but rather by her ability to present herself in a way that pleases the cultural moment. In ancient Greece, beauty wasn't just admired, it was seen as divine. Helen of Troy's face didn't just launch ships, it became the standard by which chaos, power, and femininity were understood. To be beautiful was to be chosen, to be honored, even to be worshipped. And with that beauty came moral weight, the assumption that physical perfection reflected inner virtue. A beautiful woman was a good woman. Fast forward to the Victorian era, where the ideal woman was delicate, pale, and quiet. Accomplishment meant embroidery, piano playing, and gentle refinement. Girls were groomed not just for marriage, but for display, like a painting or porcelain doll placed in a drawing room. Here, beauty became synonymous with restraint. Corsets and tight-laced bodices weren't just garments. They were tools to mold the female body into something ornamental, something controlled. In the 50s, this performance evolved yet again. Beauty became a domestic duty. Advertisements from the era show women vacuuming in heels, applying lipstick before their husbands came home, and smiling through every moment of it. The post-war years were obsessed with idealized femininity, soft curls, cinched waists, and bright smiles. The message was clear: your appearance reflects your love, your loyalty, and your success as a woman. Being put together was not a personal choice, it was a requirement. And even now, in the 21st century, that standard persists, just repackaged in a glossier language. We no longer call it obedience, we call it self-care. And we no longer say fix yourself for a man, we say glow up. But the underlying structure hasn't changed. Modern culture offers us a new, shinier cult of transformation, wrapped in the language of becoming your best self. Think of the that girl aesthetic, waking up at 5 a.m., journaling with perfect handwriting, sipping a green smoothie in a coordinated activewear set. Think of 12-step skincare routines, clean girl makeup, contouring, calorie counting, masks as wellness. These are all framed as empowering, but they come with the same condition. You're only valuable once you're transformed. It's not that the transformation is inherently bad. Wanting to feel beautiful, organized, or healthy can be deeply fulfilling. But it's important to ask, whose standard are we transforming towards? Because when we dig deeper, we see that these rituals are rarely just for us. They're a performance, visible to our friends, our followers, and the ever-watching gaze of the algorithm. They're shared on TikTok and Instagram under hashtags like glow up and makeover. They mimic the logic of the fairy tale. You'll find love, power, respect once you're pretty enough, once you're filtered, edited, and revealed. And that's what makes the makeover so seductive. It's not just about beauty, it's about legibility, about becoming recognizable to a world that has always been more willing to reward a woman that fits the mold than one who challenges it. Whether it's Victorian corsets or contour tutorials, the transformation has always served a larger gaze. Not internal evolution, but external validation. The makeover is not necessarily about becoming ourselves, it's about becoming someone others are finally willing to see. And when our value is always tied to how we're seen, how much space is left for who we really are? Do you think we ever really make over ourselves? Or is someone always watching, even if that someone is just our own inner critique trained by years of being seen? Chapter 3. Makeovers in pop culture and what they teach us. We don't just consume makeover stories, we inhabit them. They've become so ingrained in our collective imagination that they function less as isolated scenes and more as blueprints for how we believe transformation should look, feel, and unfold. These moments in film, TV, and social media are more than just entertainment. They're quiet teachers, instructing us on the social rewards of compliance and punishments of deviation. And no medium has reinforced this mythology more effectively than pop culture. Let's start with one of the most iconic and enduring examples of the makeover trope. The She's All That effect. In the 1990 film, Lainey Boggs is a quirky, paint-splattered high school outcast whose biggest offense is wearing overalls and not caring about prom. She's smart, talented, and deeply principled. But none of that matters until she gets a haircut, swaps her glasses for contacts, and walks down a staircase in a red dress. Suddenly, she's desirable. Not just to Zach, the popular jock who bets he can turn her into a prom queen, but to the entire school. Her inner worth is only acknowledged after she becomes visibly palatable. This trope, where the girl is only valued once she looks a certain way, has repeated itself in countless forms. In The Princess Diaries, Mia's transformation is so dramatic that her classmates don't recognize her. What changes isn't her personality or her intelligence, but her ability to be seen as royal. Her frizzy hair, thick eyebrows, coated as ugly, are removed like obstacles for greatness. Only once she's fixed is she taken seriously. In Greece, Sandy's makeover is overtly sensual. She trades her sweet, soft-spoken innocence for a skin-tight black outfit, red lipstick, and a perm. Her transformation isn't just about aesthetics. It's about adopting a new persona to gain love and power. It's not Danny who changes to meet her. It's Sandy who shape-shifts to become the girl he and society wants. What's so telling in all of these examples is that the protagonist never undergoes a true personal evolution. Her values remain the same, her intelligence, kindness, and creativity are untouched. But the world treats her differently because her surface changes. And that's the most dangerous message of all, that your value isn't inherent, it's earned through aesthetic conformity. For a different perspective, let's consider makeover culture in the realm of reality TV competitions, particularly shows like America's Next Top Model. In Top Model, contestants are routinely subjected to extreme makeovers in the name of fashion. Hair is chopped, bleached, and dyed. Personal styles are discarded in favor of editorial looks. And while these transformations are framed as opportunities for growth or industry success, they're often traumatic. Some contestants cry, protest, or feel unrecognizable in the mirror. But resistance is treated as immaturity. The show's message is clear. If you want to succeed, you have to surrender. Beauty is not about self-expression. It's about submission to fashion, to industry, to authority. The transformation isn't a gift, it's a demand. Then there's the digital makeover, the ever-present, ever-scrolling world of TikTok glow-up culture. In the past, makeover stories took place within the safe fantasy of a movie. Now they unfold in real time, from sad girl to CEO. How I became that girl. Hot Girl Summer Transformation. These short-form videos follow a familiar rhythm. The before is framed with poor lighting, messy rooms, and soft crying. The after sparkles with aesthetic coffee routines, sleek outfits, and confident smirks. They're aspirational, yes, but also deeply curated. And while they often come with the language of empowerment, I did this for me, the audience knows better. Because if it were just for you, why record it? Why edit it? Why offer it up to be judged, liked, and shared? The performance of transformation is public by design. Social media doesn't reward stillness. It rewards constant visible evolution. There's also a cruel paradox embedded in glow-up culture. If you're always becoming, you're never allowed to be. The pressure to constantly improve, refine, and optimize yourself keeps you in a permanent state of almost there. There's no finish line, only the next version of yourself that promises to be better, thinner, more productive, and more desirable. And perhaps the most sinister thing about all these makeover narratives, whether it's a teen rom-com, a reality TV show, or a TikTok montage, is that they often disguise pressure as choice. We're told it's empowering to improve ourselves, that becoming more beautiful, more polished, more stylish is an act of self-love. But self-love that requires a before and after photo isn't always love. Sometimes it's just surveillance, performed inward and outward. The makeover then becomes a ritual of belonging, a silent contract with society. I'll raise my edges if it means to be seen. But what happens when the makeover doesn't work? When the transformation doesn't bring the promised love and acceptance or attention? Who are we when the camera cuts, when the montage ends, and we're left with the same insecurities, just in prettier packaging? And what's your favorite or least favorite makeover moment in pop culture? Did it inspire you or make you question why the original version of the girl had to disappear in the first place? I mean, I do love the makeover scene in The Devil Wears Prada. Obviously, I mean, that was kind of funny too, that movie, in many ways. Chapter 4, Transformation versus Conformity. Here's where the conversation gets more complicated and more interesting. Not all transformation is harmful. In fact, transformation is a natural part of being human. We change constantly, sometimes quietly over months, sometimes in bursts like the aftermath of heartbreak or the spark of new beginning. Reinvention can be joyful, healing, even radical. To evolve is not inherently oppressive, but the difference lies in intention. Are we transforming to become more of who we are, or to become more acceptable to others? This is where the line between transformation and conformity begins to blur. Real transformation is rooted in agency. It's driven by curiosity, creativity, and desire. It comes from within. It allows us to explore identity, express autonomy, and step more fully into ourselves. But conformity? That's something else entirely. Conformity is the kind of transformation we're pressured into. It doesn't ask who you want to be, it tells you who you should be. It comes with an implicit critique that who you are right now isn't enough. It whispers that your natural state is something to be corrected, and it often wears the mask of empowerment. It tells you that you're doing this for yourself, while subtly measuring your success in likes, attention, and approval. This tension isn't new. History is full of moments when women have used appearance as a form of rebellion, or been pressured into it using it as submission. In the 1920s, the flapper emerged with short hair, flat silhouettes, and defiant eyeliner. She wasn't trying to become more beautiful in the conventional sense. She was rejecting the constraints of previous generations. Her transformation was an act of rebellion and refusal to be molded, corseted, and silenced. In the 1960s, second-wave feminism challenged beauty standards by going barefaced and embracing natural bodies. It wasn't about neglecting themselves. It was about rejecting the idea that their worth depended on their ability to please others. And in the 1990s, the rise of grunge and riot girl aesthetics gave birth to a new kind of anti-pretty. Women wore oversized clothes, combat boots, and smudged eyeliner not to attract attention, but to deflect it. Their look said, "Don't look at me like that. I don't exist for your gaze." These were transformations that didn't tidy women up. They made them louder, messier, and harder to digest. They weren't about aligning with beauty norms. They were about pushing back against them. In these moments, the makeover became a tool of power, not compliance. But today, the waters are murkier. We live in a culture where conformity is often disguised as personal growth. We've encouraged to glow up after a breakup, to become her, with morning routines and minimal aesthetics, to level up our beauty to the name of self-love. But is it really self-love if it requires constant performance? Is it empowerment if we're following a script that tells us to look, act, and move a certain way, just to be seen as valuable? What makes this even trickier is that many of us genuinely enjoy the rituals of transformation. Skincare, fashion, hair, and makeup. These things can be beautiful forms of self-expression, but when the desire to change ourselves is rooted in fear, shame, and social pressure, it becomes less about freedom and more about erasure. If we're always trying to become the after, we're telling ourselves the before was never good enough to begin with. So perhaps the real question isn't whether transformation is bad, but whether it's making us more ourselves or making us more digestible to others. A true makeover should be expansive. It should feel like coming home to yourself, not building a prettier prison. And maybe that's the quiet power of choosing not to conform. Not because you're giving up, but because you're waking up to the idea that who you are before the glow up, the contour, the algorithm-approved aesthetic is already worthy of being seen. Chapter 5, Reclaiming the Makeover on Our Own Terms. Despite the long and tangled history of makeovers, despite their deep ties to conformity, performance, and patriarchal approval, they are not beyond redemption. In fact, the makeover can still be a powerful act of self-expression when we reclaim it in our own terms. It doesn't have to be a performance for others. It doesn't have to mean that something was wrong with you to begin with. A makeover can be a ritual, a rebirth, a shedding of past selves, not because the past versions were shameful, but because we are always in motion, always becoming. There's nothing inherently wrong with wanting to change. In fact, there's something deeply human about the desire to step into a new version of ourselves, to cut off our hair after a breakup, to try on a new aesthetic when we feel stuck, to reinvent our appearances as a way of saying, I am no longer who I was. These moments can be empowering. They can feel like turning the page in your own story. They can even help us see ourselves more clearly, especially in moments where we felt invisible. What becomes dangerous is the belief that our worth lies on the other side of transformation, that we are only deserving of love, respect, and attention once we've changed into someone new, that the before was always in the need of fixing. Because once we internalize that belief, transformation stops being a choice. It becomes a condition, something we owe the world in order to be seen. But here's the truth. You are not a project waiting to be completed. You're not a raw material waiting to be polished. You are not unfinished. You are already someone complex, dynamic, evolving, and worthy of right now. And whatever transformation you do choose, whether it's a bold haircut, a closet overhaul, or a quiet shift in the way you carry yourself, it should be for you, not for the gaze, not for the algorithm, not to prove that you have arrived. A true makeover should never be about hiding. It should be about revealing. It should feel like a mirror that reflects your selfhood, not a mask that hides it. It should be expansive, playful, and rooted in authenticity, a way to honor the parts of you that want to be seen, not erase the parts that don't. When we reclaim the makeover, we rewrite the narrative. We reject the storyline that says our value is earned through presentation. We step outside of the montage and into our own bodies, our own rhythms, our own definitions of beauty. Because becoming someone new doesn't have to mean discarding who we were. Sometimes it just means we're ready to be seen differently, on our terms, not theirs. So yes, take the risk, try the lipstick, chop your hair, reimagine your style, do it all you want. But do it from a place of wholeness, not a place of lack. Not because you need to be someone else to be loved, but because you already love who you are enough to let her grow, shift, and shine. So why do we keep believing that transformation equals worth? Maybe because we've been taught that visibility is value, that beauty unlocks love, that power comes dressed in red lipstick, and a before and after reveal. From fairy tales to teen rom-coms, reality shows to TikTok glow-ups, the makeover has always promised more than just changed. It has promised arrival, a signal to the world that we are now worthy of attention, respect, and admiration. And so we chase it again and again. But here's the truth, the quiet one that rarely makes it into the montage. You were never the before. There was never anything wrong with you to begin with. Every version of you, messy, unfiltered, undone, has always deserved to be seen. What we've called a makeover might really be a mask, and we're taught to wear it so we'll fit into someone else's frame. But when we start transforming for ourselves, not to be smaller or prettier or to be more digestible, but to feel more alive, more present in our own skin, that's when the makeover becomes something different. That's when it becomes sacred, because the power of transformation doesn't lie in the approval it gets from others. It lies in ownership, in reclaiming the right to become, again and again, in our own terms, without shame, without explanation. So the next time you feel the pull to change, to update, to improve, to polish, pause and ask, is this a celebration or a correction? Am I coming home to myself or trying to escape? Because you don't need a fairy godmother. You don't need a staircase moment. You need the permission to take up some space as who you are, and to change only when you feel called to, not when the world demands it. And maybe, just maybe, the most radical transformation is not becoming someone new, but finally seeing yourself without apology. So let me know in the comments below, have you ever gone through a transformation that felt freeing, not performative? A makeover that brought you closer to yourself, not further away? I mean, in the past when I was younger, I always like had this idea, and I think this is from like Barbie and fairy tales, that I always wanted to be blonde with blue eyes. And I think it's just because I grew up with, you know, Cinderella and like playing with Barbies. And so like in my like youth, I've like tried to dye my hair blonde, but then it just looks all orange and gross. So I've kind of learned to like not try to do that again, just because I don't think my hair works well as blonde. So anyways, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. If you've done any crazy makeovers, and like, did you like your makeover in the end? So curious. All right, thanks for watching.